special guest is the mayor of the village of Palmetto Bay, Your Honor, Madam Karyn Cunningham.
Oh my gosh! This is how the show is starting.
This is how it's starting.
If we had gone to elementary school together, they would have separated
That's
us.
true.
Because we would have been laughing too much.
And you were a school teacher for a long time, so you
I was.
understand
I
what
know.
it's
I
about.
understand.
Right. And so let's talk about first. The last time we were together, we talked about the public land that was behind some houses. Whatever happened with that?
Okay, yeah, I thought I might have mentioned it the last time, but if not, the item was brought back by Councilmember Cody, and we were able to secure 3 votes with some caveats. Councilmember Fiore jumped on board. We have put in our application for Tanglewood Linear Park for one of the folios, which was actually the original folio that we wanted. But then the county was encouraging, and it was a good idea they had for us to take the other folios across, next to the canal. If you can picture it, you can picture it. Because it would create this linear walking space from 144th all the way over to 77th. But our application's back in. The county has a process. I don't know when or who they'll decide, but at least we're back in the game for creating public spaces that are important to the community.
So to catch people up, this is property that was between the back of people's property and the canal.
2 different, yes, but you're correct. Yeah, so it was 4 folios. One is the big folio from 77th Avenue to 141st Street. It looks like an L, and that abuts 6 or 7 homes on 141st Street. And then originally it would have continued across 141st Street, and then there are the back of homes on, I guess it would be like 76th or 75th Avenue.
So what about, was there other property back there that the city's saying that would not be good for parks for the city?
No, the village was willing to accept ownership of all of them to create the space. The county recently did put up a fence. I don't have any more information on that other than I see a fence along one side of 141st Street. Not really sure what the purpose of the fence is. So
we have something else that's going on. The old property called the Burger King property.
Yeah.
Well, that was the Burger King world headquarters, all right? And it's magnificent property. And I remember Hurricane Andrew, the water was up to wherever, but really beautiful land. So tell us the latest on that.
So we actually, tomorrow evening at 5 p.m. or tomorrow late afternoon at 5 p.m., we have a special council meeting where we're going to hear 3 items left over from our June 2nd meeting.
Hold on 1 second. Is this the time to go to the Instagram post?
Yeah, you could. Yeah, I haven't quite gotten there yet, but I'll tell you very quickly before you do. So tomorrow night, today's Tuesday, tomorrow night's Wednesday, at 5 p.m., we've got a few items remaining from our last council meeting. One of them happens to be this legal settlement. We did thank you for following us on Instagram, I guess. We did have do a video to kind of explain things. There's a lot of misinformation being circulated about why the legal settlement. Some people don't really understand the history of the property. So we tried to just kind of clarify it all in one 2-minute video.
Okay, so before we get to that, from the point of being somebody that's governing, and they want to do what the citizens want within reason on that. So now that it's all but voted on, I think, right? When you look at this struggle, which has been how many years?
A long time.
Is it 10? Could it be 10 years?
Yeah. So, but when you say the struggle, the lawsuit started in 2022. So not that long ago, but long enough, right? Yes. But this property we've been talking about it since almost the full time I've been on council. I think the first time it was discussed on council was in 2016. So I'd have been in office about a year. So it's been the entirety of my tenure. And
everybody's going to be happy when it's put to rest because everybody was able to express themselves, right?
Please, has anyone ever been happy? Like you made everyone happy. You made a decision, you make everyone happy. It's not, this is really, to me, this is one of the hardest decisions I'll make because of the position that I have taken over the course of many years, which has to vote in opposition to increasing height and density there. But once you go to court and you lose, you have to re-examine what it is you're doing. And that's pretty much what we're doing now.
Okay, so Rochelle, if you would do that. By the way, Rochelle is a teacher in Florida City,
know.
3rd, 4th, and 5th graders,
Woo!
and she's
our producer.
Yes.
Palmetto-Bay Village Center, formerly known as Burger King World Headquarters, to give you an
Update on how our council is working to preserve and protect this special area. Back in 2016, the council serving at that time passed legislation by 3-2 majority vote that allowed for the development of 485 residential units at this site. Later, in 2022, the council rejected the developer's site plan for 480 multifamily units, and the developer filed the first lawsuit challenging the council's site plan denial. The developer also filed a separate claim asking the village to pay $15 million in lost revenues under the Burt J. Harris Act, which entitles landowners to compensation when their property suffers financial losses due to government action. Since 2023, the village has challenged these lawsuits in court. Unfortunately, each time, the court has been in favor of the developer. We must now shift our focus to protecting the village's financial viability and preserving the character of our village. In addition to the $15 million pending lawsuit, the developer also has the option of invoking the Live Local Act, which is a statewide initiative intended to increase affordable housing, which would mean the developers could put 2,300 units here. At our June 2nd meeting, the council heard and discussed a legal settlement agreement that eliminates this pending $15 million lawsuit and eliminates the possibility of the developer taking advantage of the Live Local Act and putting in those 2,300 units. It caps the development at 455. As the Village of Parks, we have asked the developer to donate this 22 acres of green space right here along Old Cutler Road. This would allow for a physical buffer of the development, and this would create another public park space. This will allow us to protect our pine rockland and benefit generations for years to come. The settlement agreement is coming before the council once again during a special council meeting scheduled for June 25th at 5 p.m. Join us at Village Hall for the discussion, or watch the meeting on Facebook, on YouTube, or on the village website. Hey there, Palmetto Bay.
I'm your village mayor.
Oh.
I'm standing at
Once is more than enough.
So there it is.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
It's going to get approved, you think? Or it already is?
Well, we have some hard decisions to make. No, we have to have some discussion. Councilmember Fiore asked for a deferral to this special council meeting so that everyone would have the opportunity to meet with the developer. We didn't have input. We didn't give input to the legal settlement. I know I met with the developer. My ask was that I want the 22 acres, which was not clearly delineated in the legal settlement, in my opinion, donated to the village. If we're going to be the Village of Parks, then I'd like to capture that 22 acres to make it a public space.
So the 455 units, are those single-family homes?
No, they're not.
Townhouses?
No.
What is?
There'll be a combination. From what I've seen through, and they brought forward their application. It hasn't come before the council, just a legal settlement. But as a part of the discussion with the legal settlement, a lot of the language in there is what they'll be able to do. So it's a combination of townhouses and multifamily units.
I was involved in litigation for a
and
while.
retail, by the way, and retail.
And so the case kept going on and on and on and on and on. It wasn't going anywhere,
Right.
except for the lawyers. They were going to the banks.
Right.
I called up the guy on the other side. Yeah, I see. You know what the best settlement is? One that you're not happy and the one that I'm not happy. So let's just do this and get done with it
Right.
because we'll just keep going.
Right.
And ultimately, this is how most cases are completed, which is there's one side has an advantage. They finally go, let's get this settled so we can all move forward.
Yeah, and I don't, I don't have any shame in the fact that we spent money in litigation. I don't really have a problem with litigation when it's focused on issues that directly connect with quality of life in the village. We know that a development, whether it's these 455 units or the nearly 5,000 units that are going to I was about to say Cutler Ridge Mall, but Southland Mall in Cutler Bay, these are going to increase traffic. I mean, it's almost has come to this thing where it's inevitable and there's not a lot we can do. And whatever we try to do to solve traffic in one area, it just moves the traffic somewhere else and someone else is not happy. So, I mean, I do take all of these things to heart, but when you lose multiple times, we've appealed, we lost, we have to make some decision. And the decision, I want to still be able to protect the village. So how can we best protect it? Well,
my goodness, look who it is. Oh my goodness. State Representative
How are you?
Kevin
Oh
Chambliss.
my goodness. What a nice surprise. Yeah.
How are you, sir?
I'm good,
Nice
sir.
to
How
meet
are
you.
you?
Grab a chair right there.
I will.
Love it.
I will.
This,
Thank you so much.
yeah, this
You
is
came at the perfect moment.
Oh my God.
And look, we're almost kind
We
of
are,
matching.
The last time I saw her, I was in this jacket too, and it's funny because I was just thinking this must be my lucky jacket because every time that I wear it out, I get a chance to hang out with you. So
Are you kidding me?
Oh, my
All
God.
right. Is
Now-
this your
now-
lucky jacket?
even though she didn't know, she must have known inside. She got all dressed up for you.
I
today.
did. They
All
asked,
right.
why are you all dressed up? I said, I heard state rep. I'm kidding. I love you. I love you, man. No, I'm
I love
glad,
you
so
as
glad
well.
you're here.
thank you
Yeah,
so much.
sorry. I got here a little late. So I think I
It's
stepped on your
perfect. It's
time a
all
little bit.
God's
I'm so
timing.
sorry.
There-
God's timing.
It was like it was supposed to be.
There you go.
Actually,
Actually,
it was.
that's a great thing. Yeah.
All right, so Palmetto Bay is a wonderful place. All right.
It is.
All right,
It is.
And let's talk a little bit about whatever attention that the city can provide for people in need, especially little kids. Right. I just saw a 9-year-old boy with autism up north. Autistic kids like to water for some reason, drown. All right.
Yeah.
And I just saw Victor, the autism dad. He wears a cap. He does a show here. So he's bringing to us and to the public a lot of parents that have autistic kids. And so Gwen and I become a little bit more educated in the disaster that has occurred to these kids and these families. Even though we have people that are here that are autistic, there's so many that the struggle for the families is just enormous on how to get these kids to be functional. And we met with a young lady who she had twins, 17 and a half months old. The kids were perfect. All of a sudden, in 2.5 weeks, the autism struck. They couldn't talk. The father, husband left. And so here's a woman, big job, big house, big husband, blah, blah, blah. She says, my total job in life, Michael, is to get these kids to transition to adulthood. So, Madam Mayor, before your term is up, which is coming up pretty soon, what are you going to do for the kids that need help?
Well, we're already doing it. We have a great partnership with
you're next.
Yeah, with organizations,
that,
as I'm sure you do as well. We have one in particular in our community that actually one of our commissioners' daughter attends, Commissioner Regalado, her beautiful Bella. Comes to Palmetto Bay every day. It is Rising Start Foundation. We've raised the autism flag, but I think I see what you're saying, which is even more timely and got me thinking. While we partnered with these great organizations that are providing services and teaching life skills, so important, right? Because we take so much for granted, the work, how we get up, how we leave our home every day. We just take it for granted. We got to be doing more. How do we get some of these young people employed?
Commissioner Regalado, the State County Commissioner Regalado, when she was here, she said something that has stuck with me. They deserve a seat at the table. And so part of the job that Grant and I are doing is trying to bring more awareness so we can get them to the table because they're going to be adults pretty soon.
That's right.
Right?
Yeah.
So State Representative, what can we do to help?
Well, I tell you, it's been something that we've been talking about all legislative session, actually. Been a priority of Senator Albritton over in the Senate to make sure that this particular session, we are creating legislation that supports the autism community. We were able to do that effectively. I myself, along with Representative Chase Tremont, actually ran a bill. This was a cameras in classrooms bill. Now, these are classrooms that are over 50% kids with disabilities, many of them nonverbal autistic kids. What we were seeing was a lot of things were happening to those kids because here's the story. If you got kids and, at the end of the day, I know with my 6-year-old, my favorite thing to do is to say, hey, bud, how was your day? And he's going to give me an answer. Oh my God. And I'm going to hear stories. And if I see a scratch on his knee, I'm going to say, hey, what happened? He'll be like, oh, well, I was playing and we were playing chase and I ran too fast and I slipped, blah, 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 right? These kids that we're talking about, these nonverbal kids, they don't have an answer to give. Some of the most vulnerable in our community. That was the basis of our bill. We wanted to make sure that while they were in our classrooms, that they were having all the protections needed. That bill made it unanimously, every stop, in a bipartisan fashion through the House of Representatives. We're hoping to bring it back next year and bring it to the finish line. So that's one of the things. Another thing, when we're talking about these this population as they become adults, one of the best employers for them is the Goodwill Foundation. Goodwill is a great employer for them. They specifically create opportunities and training for them. And so I've been very, very supportive of their efforts through employment throughout the years. Besides that, we also, you mentioned earlier, want to make sure that we're continuously creating drowning safety, drowning prevention measures, because a lot of times kids, if they stray off and they see a body of water, they might not know how to handle that. Florida is the #1 state in the nation when it comes to youth drowning. So we've been paying a lot of attention to that as well, trying to create certain measures. And last but not least, we've also created legislation to make it more easy for our first responders to know that when they encounter an individual, that individual has autism. That's very, very important, because the protocol changes when they do that. And those are some of the things that we've done this year in the Florida House.
Thank you for doing that.
Yeah, that's great.
Former teacher, right?
Yeah.
The figures I hear on autism, somewhere between 1 and 30 to 35, but bigger picture is 1 out of 7, I've been told, have some sort of disability in the classroom. And when we had one of the representatives from the University of Miami Center for Autism and Related Disorders.
Right, CARD.
You're right. When you were in the classroom, when you looked at some of these kids, did you go, I think they need some help? What is that like for you when you observe that?
Well, kids come with all kinds of abilities and disabilities, just like the grown-ups do. So, identifying, I taught first grade, oftentimes it would take some time to kind of drill down to find out what's going on. And with the school district, sometimes it takes a while to get a child tested. Sometimes parents would come in with information already, right? They would know what was going on with their young person. And you have to come up with strategies to keep everybody engaged. You have to keep them engaged with each other, because we learn, right? Sitting next to each other, having conversation with one another, working in small groups, and just making everyone feel comfortable in your classroom environment.
Carlos McGarry was one of our speakers, CEO of Jackson Memorial Hospital. So I asked him about autistic. He said, when we were younger, we erroneously would just refer to them as slow. And I remember growing up thinking, it was almost like it was contagious. Keep them away. So my experience was with Steve Bateman's son, Austin. Steve Bateman's son at that point was about this big, and this is what he did. Yeah. The son is named Austin. This is my only experience knowing somebody autistic. Austin, change your diaper. Austin, change your diaper. Well, advance forward 40 years, somebody comes in and said, my son is autistic. He graduated from such and such a school.
That's right.
And it's in this arena. He says, he goes to show me the video. And I am overwhelmed then, as I am now. And I said, here's a dad trying to do something, for his son. He said, would you give him an internship? I said to him, okay. I know you're saving lives, so we're going to do that. I had originally leaned over to look at this little thing. I'm going, is that what I'm going to judge this future of this person and my future with him? By this little thing that was there. So, okay, 4 hours a day, 3 days. That's it. Because I'm like freaking out. I'm imagining he's going to be like Austin was. And I said, he's not going to scream, is he? No. Oh, okay. At the end of the day, I offered him a job. 2.5 years he's been here.
That's great.
That's awesome.
When the parents called, they're very apprecitive. A month later, I called the dad. I said, hey, how you doing? Good. I said, I want to thank you for introducing me to your son. He says, I thought you were calling me to help me. You were going to let him go. I said, no, actually, just the opposite. And it was with those things that Raquel Regalado said. Sometimes just they deserve the seat at the table. So Grant and I made a commitment to do more of that. So what I'm asking you to do as mayor, before you leave, which is when's your term over?
November 2026.
So sort of a year.
Listen, it's near and dear to me, and
Yep.
you may not know. I know you know my nephew Cameron is disabled, right?
Yes.
He's got physical
In a wheelchair.
disabilities. He's actually relearning walking,
No
which
kidding.
is very cool and scary because when you have kids, right?
Yeah.
And you think, and he's 32, so he's not a kid. He's a full-blown adult, almost 6 feet tall. I was having dinner with my brother, sister, and Cameron, and Cameron got up, and we were kind of like, what's going on? Like, normally he just stays seated. No, he was on the move, Cameron on the move, but he's also on the spectrum. And so some of the behaviors that you speak of, in terms of, those sensory things like the rocking motion or movement, those are all to calm their own anxiety. We have different ways of doing it. Sometimes I just sit in my car in quiet for a little bit to calm my own anxiety. So that's how they kind of calm their own anxiety. And I think actually Commissioner Regalado, I don't know if you follow her social media, and sorry to give her props 2 times, but she's been doing some really great Instagram videos, social media videos with her own children to be able to connect people. So when you see the behavior, you're going to better understand what this is all about. So you don't have to look at it like it's an odd behavior. People on the spectrum are very smart.
They are
Very,
genius.
very smart. Yeah. So near and dear to me. I'm gonna drill down on it because I heard the conversation in the beginning and was like, partnering's good. Doing more.
Right.
Doing more is more.
Yes, sir.
Right?
Yeah, I just wanted to add that that kind of exposure is very, very important, really, for us as a society. As you said, when we were growing up, nobody was really explaining the differences to us. We just saw them as different. But the world has changed, and yes, they not only deserve a seat at the table, they deserve a place in our community. Representative Michelle Salzman from the Panhandle actually ran a bill that creates Disability Awareness Day in schools. So now in the state of Florida, in our school systems, kids will be learning about the different disabilities that young folks might have, so they have better exposure, better awareness, therefore they can be more comfortable as we continue to ingratiate them in our society.
And I'm glad you brought that up because that's what makes us better.
Yeah.
So my only thought is Austin, and so that's what I was left with. But we're all sort of on the spectrum of life. And now what I realize is that we have to, as often as possible, bring up the subject, expose everybody else to this. Listen, here's a person that can work out, for you. And so one of the things I hope that employers across the county and across the state will take a chance on doing that.
Yeah.
Because we here are better because of him. And it was just that moment when the dad was sitting there. I'm going, here's his dad working for his son.
We can take the show from here.
Okay. And I think that's, and
I'm
I,
gonna start
I
crying.
think,
He starts
I know.
crying.
I know.
and it's important for all of us. And,
Yeah.
and
It
so we probably have in the studios here, at least once a week, a show about autism, and he brings in people either in the arena from healthcare or the parents. And when you listen to these parents, and some of them have 2 kids, both autistic, some are twins, some are not. When you see the struggle that they are on, they need attention too, and somebody to be able to be supportive, like Card is, like you'll see Rabbi Harlig from Friendships Circle, Miracle League, which is softball and baseball for autistic folks. And I think that it's important for us to be able to have that conversation, and we can save a lot of people. I know that. So hopefully before you leave, and then after you leave in that whatever position that might be, that you remember this moment, all right, and try to help some.
I will.
All right. So let's talk about some things that are going on in Tallahassee.
Well, I think
nothing.
Right. We're
Little thing.
We've
just got that insurance.
We finally
bill.
finished. And speaking of that insurance bill, oh man, there's unfinished work there. So this year I had, or this session, I had the pleasure of being named the ranking Democratic member for the Insurance and Banking Subcommittee, which was a very, very important role because of some of the tasks that we would be handed this session. There was a report that would have given us vital information on how insurance companies create their rates, how they're spending their money and the monies that they have to pay out. Really crucial information. And so we had several hearings outside of our subcommittee hearings on that, and we were doing a lot of interviews. That's unfinished work. There's still some questions that we need answered. That's work that's going to spill into next session, but it was important because we needed to make sure that as we are making insurance reforms in the state, as we're looking at property insurance, commercial insurance, that we're making the right decisions legislatively. And so I've been right in the middle of that hunt. So it's not finished, but we do have good news. The governor just signed a bipartisan bill that helps people become more aware of their need or lack of need for flood insurance when it comes to their properties. This was a bipartisan bill. Representative Christine Hunchowski was one of the sponsors, who's up in the Broward area, because a lot of times folks don't realize what kind of insurance they get. Folks, they think that they're fully covered, and so when something happens, they go to their insurance company and they say, hey, here's that time, I need your help. And they're like, yeah, well, you're not actually covered for that. You needed this kind of coverage. We're trying to get away with that. We had a town hall recently. We brought Citizens Property Insurance to try to explain that. We'll do more of that, but we need to educate the consumers about how insurance companies create the rates and what's actually in their plan to make sure that they're as prepared as possible. So that was one of the major things that we dealt with this session. Is unfinished business, but I look forward to finishing in the next session.
And if I could, this is probably one of the most important pieces, in my humble opinion. We recently had a panel through another organization that you're familiar with, Chambliss South. And we had the tax collector, the property appraiser, the clerk, and Commissioner McGee were there. And there was some conversation about the property taxes. And I had to say that the thing I know, because I knocked on many, many doors.
Yes.
2022, I knocked on over 5,500 doors. 2024, a few less, because I was doing it with a colleague, a friend. But people aren't talking about property taxes. I spend we're getting ready to go on budget into our budget cycles, your cities as well, right?
Yes, ma'am.
So property taxes, I spend a little over $700 a year on the services that I receive from Palmetto Bay. And I reminded the panel, 51% in my city, 51% of our operating cost is public safety. It's our police services. So people aren't talking, they're not saying, whoa, this is too much I'm spending too much in taxes. They're saying I'm being pushed out because of insurance costs.
Right.
So all that you're saying about information and education's I totally get that. But at the end of the day, hopefully you all will figure some kind of regulation, because I can tell you at the grassroots level, that's what people are talking about. These insurance costs have gone up. They're exorbitant.
It seems to me in 5 years, it's 2.5 times, more or less.
Yeah, you're accurate. One of the things that happened was we ended up with a very, very volatile market. And so you saw a lot of insurance companies leaving the state of Florida. Since legislation has been passed in the last couple of years, that has reversed. Several insurance companies are coming back to the market. Remember, we're a peninsula. We have natural disasters. It's kind of what we do. But we're also a model to the rest of the country about how to survive and thrive, even though you have natural disasters. So insurance companies are coming back. We need to make sure that there is good regulation with the Office of Insurance Regulation. We want to give them more resources. We want to give them more powers of investigation so that they can make sure that they're holding insurance companies accountable, so that when people have issues with how they're interacting with their insurance company, that the Office of Insurance Regulation can be there to make sure that the insurance company is doing right by the consumer. A mixture of these things, a balance, as was said in the Florida House, is what we're looking for through legislation. I think that we'll get that.
And Representative, let's describe the map of your area. The most northern point is what street?
It's the canal behind Richmond Heights.
Okay.
You know, Richmond Heights community has a canal that goes through it.
Yep.
That's the northern part of my district.
And the eastern border?
The eastern border would be, for the most part, US 1.
Okay.
Except for when you get the community of Ghouls. We zigzag and get that community.
They still have that post office down there that's smaller than the office?
Yeah. Oh my God.
Okay.
Yes.
You guys can appreciate that. I'm in 10th grade, 11th grade, delivering community newspapers for my daddy in his Volkswagen bus, 11 o'clock at night. My hands are all swollen from the bundles. I said, there's got to be a better way. 60 years later, I'm going,
there's got to be a better way.
This is the way.
Yes, sir.
All right. So as far as south, I say we have the border north, border east.
And then south, you're going down all the way to Florida City. Really, we are the southernmost district on mainland. And then after that, west would be Redland Road, and then it comes back to US 1, and then it's a zigzag district. So if you're in the Cutler Bay area, 117th over by the Turnpike, that's our western border.
And Rachel is a teacher in a school in Florida City. What school is that?
Oh my God!
So she teaches
the Laura C.
That's
Right.
Okay, so she teaches 3rd, 4th, 5th grade.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And she is so devoted. She lives sort of in Palmetto Bay. She drives down to the school. When she gets done there, she drives here and then drives back when she's done. All right.
Wow.
Rochelle, I love how you're like an integral part of every show.
It is.
I
It's
love
unbelievable.
It.
All right.
Yeah, right there off Lucy.
That's great.
Awesome.
It's awesome. Right. It's awesome.
So your term is up when?
Well, we get reelected every 2 years, so I have reelection in 2026, and I will be term limited. If I got reelected, I'd be term limited in 2028.
That means, on a 2-year term, you're always running. You get a honeymoon for about 2 months.
People say, "Hey, when your campaign?" So I'm like, "It never ended, my friend." We are always doing that, but we do that by doing service to the community.
Right.
So the model is what it is. We believe in being in the community anyway. We believe in making sure that we are available to the community anyway. So it's pretty natural for me.
All right, and Madam Mayor.
Yes, sir.
You're going to say it here sooner or later. So why don't you tell us sooner what your plans are after you finish your term?
I don't know.
You're committed to the people of Palmetto Bay, and I know that you are. And I remember the first time you lost it, I hope you go back again. Remember?
Yes.
And you said, I'm going back, right? And so you served one term as
councilwoman.
And then
I'll have done 2 terms as mayor. It's really been, honestly, it's been the most amazing journey, right? And the people that I've met, like, would I have met this young man, right? Would we be in almost matching jackets? No, I honestly don't know. We'll see. Time will tell. I'm formulating a plan. How's that?
That's good. So one of the things I like to do, I'm sure you've had people that have helped you along your way. All right.
Yes.
Some may still be with us. Some may have been passed. If you were to look right into this camera over here, Rochelle's going to put the camera on. If you would talk to them and thank them if appropriate, and if they passed, that's good too. If you want to mention them by name, that would be great.
Start with me.
Start with you, right there. Look.
The list is very long. I'll start with Mayor Otis Wallace from Florida City, Commissioner Moss, my pastor Curtis Thomas, the Reverend Jimmy Williams, Congressman Joe Garcia. Those are a lot of Patricia Mellerson. Oh my God, the late Patricia Garrett.
Oh wow.
I can keep going. Like we could do a whole segment on that. But I'm not from here. I'm a country boy from Mississippi, and when I got here, these individuals, they put their arms around me and they made me feel like home, and now I have the honor of serving them in the Florida House.
Wonderful. Madam Mayor?
Yeah, like you, there's so many individuals that I would have to thank. If you've come to any of my swearing in, it's pages of people that have been helpful along the way. But I got to give a shout out to my family, because this kind of service, whether it's local service, state service, when you're, and you guys have really big districts too, it really, if you don't have family support, there's not a lot of grounding there. So I would say my family and close friends. Before we were on camera, we were talking about my beautiful daughter, Megan. She is, I will start crying because she has really been a very, very strong supporter, as a daughter should, but with a little bit of extra spice. I remember being in 2022, it was pouring rain as the polls were closing out. I had called her. I said, I don't think we're going to do it. I'm going to start crying. I don't think we're going to make it. And she was over at another polling place. She came over and, you know, she kind of walked around, looked and walked over to me, put up an umbrella because I was there like a wet dog.
That's how we do
and
it.
she was like, you know what? I've taken in the lay of the land here. You're going to win. And I was like, what? And it got me through that last 30 minutes and I did win. But it was, you know, listen, you got to have people rallying around you.
That's right.
A lot of great public figures too. And I just had lunch with Carla Matz, Karen Aronowitz, my union roots. I know you know these folks,
right.
Vet Ingram. They really have supported me over the course of time. And then my school board member, Larry Feldman, was the first one to endorse me. Luisa Santos. I mean, there's just so many amazing individuals. This guy, even if it's from a distance, right?
Absolutely.
We just lift each other up through work. And though you're not my representative, you work well with everybody, which is amazing. And I know you've been in my city before because we had you at Palmer Trinity, if I recall it, with my very wonderful Senator Alexis Calatayud. This is before Omar was our state rep, but great stuff, really great stuff.
So what I'm hearing is that it's important for us to hear and then to be able to give that support, because there's some little kid out there, whether he's 10 years old or 40 years old, all right, that's waiting for somebody. You can do that, all right? So I hope you guys continue to do that. And we're going to look right in the red camera over there, and we're going to say,